All right, so we talked about having a plan, developing your skill, and now we're going to talk about income, okay? This is the most important part. This is where the rubber hits the road. Either you're winding down at your job, you're preparing to quit, or you're already done, you've left, and you are now on your own making your own money. And this is the scariest part. It's terrifying, right? Because especially if you're used to a paycheck, you're used to getting money every 2 weeks, every week, every month, whatever. Now you're in a situation where you don't have that, right? And what do you do with your time? Like at your job, maybe you didn't do a lot. Maybe you kind of like goofed off all day. But now that time at your house or wherever you are doing your thing, it has to mean something. You got to produce some money, right? So it's terrifying because you're just not, psychologically, this is the hardest part. Mathematically, it can work, right? I'll tell you how to do it. Watch it all the way through one time, come back with a pen and paper, do the math. I promise it will work out. But this income thing is really the hardest part. It's the scariest part, okay? All right, so here's what I mean. This whole time we've been talking about $3,000 being the money you needed, right? Again, your goal when you first start is not trying to get 3,000 all at one time through one job. The goal is to get $300 10 times, or $150 20 times, or $100 30 times. Does that make sense? Which means that you need to average about $100 a day. Now, that being said, it's your first month. You just quit. You're out on your own. You're doing your own thing, right? Are you going to make $3,000 that first month? Probably not. I'm not saying you won't. I'm just saying that you just started. It's going to take some time. It's going to take about 3 to 6 months for you to go from your job to making $3,000 a month or close to it. 3 to 6 months from now, right? So at the beginning, that first month, you might make $500. The first month on my own, I made $475, right? And I was kind of freaking out a little bit. But remember, I had the emergency fund. See how it connects? You have your emergency fund with 3 to 6 months. You have 3 to 6 months to kind of get yourself and get your income right, and actually go out and sell your services and make money. That's why you need that time. You need time to focus on how to grow and get your income and find customers and find people who are willing to pay you. It just doesn't happen overnight. Now, if you're fortunate enough to have something you can do at night after you leave your job, and you can kind of like get practice in and get money that way, and that way when you quit, you already have customers, that would be ideal. But that's not how it worked for me. Like, I got laid off and I had a job where I traveled. I couldn't just do something on nights and weekends. Nights and weekends, I was traveling. So when I got laid off, it was like go time. And I didn't have this convenient, hey, just do it at night and try to do photography and video at night. No, man, I got laid off and I was on Craigslist. I mean, there's different things to do now, but I was on Craigslist looking for work, and I found this church that needed a videographer. They paid $150. They needed me to be there the next day at 11 o'clock. I saw this post at maybe 1 a.m. in the morning, and I was at that church at 11 a.m. that next day. They paid me $150 in cash, and that was my first gig. That was my first gig on my own, right? And I was so happy to get it. But my expenses were roughly around $22.50, right? You see how I knew it was $22.50? And that's another really big important point. This will not work unless you know how much money you're spending per month. You have got to know this number. Like, you have to memorize this number and make it as specific as possible. If it's 3,325 cents, that's your number, right? Don't assume, oh, it's roughly 2,000 or it's roughly, no. You need to know an exact dollar amount, because if you overestimate it, let's say you think you spend $3,500 right? And you're stressing out trying to get 3,500, but it's only 3,000. Well, it'll kind of work out in your favor, but it's not good. It's definitely bad to underestimate, right? Your expenses are actually higher than what you guessed. But try your best to know exactly how much you're spending per month, because that's the income you need to match it, to actually get you to zero so that all your bills are paid. And if you know exactly what that number is, that means that when you do well and you make 4,000 a month versus your 3,000, you put $1,000 back into your emergency fund, which now buys you more time to get your company up and running. Now I say company, it could be freelancing, it could be a side hustle. It won't be a side hustle anymore. This is what you're doing. This is your thing now, right? So if you're a plumber, a builder, a cabinet maker, a singer, comedian, whatever, this is your income now. And so you can always get a part-time job to help you, but your main thing now is the skill you've been building, right? But I want to stress two very important things. One, you must know how much your monthly expenses are. You have to know what that is. Number one, you need it to be able to create the correct emergency fund amount. And you also need to know how much income you need to make per month to match your spending so that you can survive and eat and not stress out. Because think about it. It's your first month and you're trying to do your thing, right? You make $500 that month. You're kind of freaking out. You need 3,000, but you got your emergency fund. You tap into that. You take $2,500 out of your emergency fund. Does that feel good? No, it doesn't. But it's there. It's there. And that way you can kind of calm down a little bit. Let's say the next month you do 1,500, right? You're halfway there. That's good. You've grown from 500 to 1,500, but you're still $1,500 short. You have to go back into your emergency fund and take 1,500 out of that. Does that feel good? No, but it's there, right? The next month you do 3,000. You wash 3,000 in, 3,000 out. You want to make more money, but it doesn't happen that way, but you at least break even. Now you don't take money out of your emergency fund. How do you feel? Maybe you're still a little stressed out. Your emergency fund is down to maybe like 2 months now, as opposed to 3, but it's there and you're not starving. And now you're starting to understand what it's going to take to be on your own. So now you know you got to wake up early. You got to go to certain places, certain networking events. You figure out what you have to do to get those $3,100 gigs, $2,150 gigs, or 10 $300 gigs. You get what I'm saying? That time in the beginning gives you focus. You have to focus, and you can't focus if you run to do DoorDash or Uber Eats and do that all day, because you have to focus on how am I going to find people who buy what I want, who buy what I do, right? Spend those first few months figuring that out. And then you could say, okay, I tend to find my customers at church. I tend to find my customers at the gym. Maybe I'm a physical trainer. Maybe I just do that on the side. I'm able to go to LA Fitness and just kind of be like, hey, I noticed, would you be interested in a physical trainer? I mean, I know they got physical trainers there, but maybe you do something different. I don't know. But you get what I'm saying? You start figuring out, okay, who needs what I have to sell? Who's looking for a solution that I can provide, right? With my skill. And it might be Craigslist. It might be putting up a poster at church. It might be being involved in your organizations that you're already involved in and just asking them, hey, this is what I do. Do you know anybody that needs this? You're going to come off as being a little thirsty and a little aggressive and a little desperate. But look, 3 months of emergency savings, that's how much time you got. And the more you dip into your savings, your time does like this, right? I want you to think like an hourglass. You know how the sand just goes down, right? When you have a good month and you have profit over your expenses, you put more sand at the top. And it just keeps going down, right? Right? And it is stressful. Seeing that sand go down, seeing your account balance go down is stressful. But when you get to the point where you know where to find the sand, then you figure it out and it gets better. And you're like, all right, no. It gets to a point after about 9 months to a year where you know where the sand is. So now you're in control of whether or not you put sand in there at all. Or maybe you work really hard and put a whole bunch of sand in there. You got more time. Or maybe you don't work so hard. Maybe you chill out. Or maybe it's a slow season. Like for me, my slow season was the summer. I didn't know that at first. And so it freaked me out. But I started understanding how my business like kind of ebbed and flowed through the season. And I knew the summer was going to be slow. So I would just chill out and enjoy myself. But it took me a long time to get there to where I could just chill and just relax. But I had my emergency savings. I knew exactly how much I spent per month, and I knew exactly how many jobs I had to do to make my basic income needs, or my expense needs, my spending needs, right? Okay. I know this a lot, but it's the most important part because it really is, it's go time, right? All the other stuff, the planning, sounds good, developing your skills, okay, follow your passion. Okay, that sounds great and awesome, but I'm telling you, the hardest part is getting out there with no job. You wake up, you have your coffee, you're at home chilling. The phone is not ringing. No one's calling you. You have to make it work on your own. There is no app you can log on to. There's no email waiting for you to open. It's just you and silence, right? And what do you do to go get customers, right? And it's stressful. But once you make it work, it's way better than anything DoorDash or Uber Eats or a part-time job or even a full-time job can replace. Because let me tell you this last thing. I replaced my full-time income within 18 months. That sounds like a long time, and it was. But I had unemployment, I had my emergency savings plan, and I had enough work to keep me going. But after 18 months, I actually beat my old job's income. So it is possible. Just hang with me. I got more stuff for you. I'll tell you how to do it. It'll work. Promise. I can't promise you, but I can tell you it's likely to work, okay? Highly likely. If you listen, highly likely to work. All right? We'll continue this conversation later. All right.